issue or never been an issue with our firm with any of the candidates we supply. We're very thorough in finding out where they are and where they actually work from, and haven't had too many people be deceptive about anything like that. But a reference or a background check as far as workplace should come back on workplace verification. We also have to be careful with Florida Sunshine Law and letting the candidates know, their employers know, should they be, we don't want to reveal them to their bosses too soon or whatever. Should they be leaving, should not be to that point yet. So it's a fine line to walk. That's why we usually do it at the end of the process. But hopefully that answers your question.
But how do you catch, I mean, how do you find, because a person can be working at another city and have problems there. And then when they come here, we're seeing the problems that they had over there.
Absolutely. And so I see what you're saying. And so part of what we do is one, we do a lot of research on where they're coming from. We do internet search. If there's something negative, especially in a city, that'll be on the internet. We do our best to call people that we know that have interacted with us. People say, hey, what do you think about that? Because honestly, those are the best references, ones that the candidates don't provide. And the people that we know and have a database, that's easy to find. Hey, this person worked with this person at this city. Let's call that person and say, hey, how good is Joe Smith? How good is Jane Doe? And if they're like, you know what, there's just a lot there, I'd stay away, or they were awesome. You could hire them. Again, we have to be careful about not revealing too much about the candidates and I'd say blowing up their spot, but letting people know that they're an active candidate in another search. But it is a tricky line to follow, but that is why you hire us to do the research and find out, hey, this is what's going on in this town. This is what they've done. We actually have them, part of the essay questions is what are your accomplishments here and what have you done successful wise? And so you could be able to find that out pretty quickly. Hey, they say they increased revenue, whatever it is. They reduced the budget or increased the budget. They reduced, road traffic in the roads, whatever it is. We have them put them on there. So we allow them to tout their successes, but we also do a lot of research on the internet.
Now, within the 90 days that you said this takes, will you be giving us updates in between that time?
We give you weekly updates. We
Good.
provide you with how many candidates we've reached out to, how many have applied, but of those that have applied, how many are really viable and we think realistic and good candidates. We tell you what we're hearing. Hey, the salary is a little low. People would be interested had the salary been high. Or you know what, we're hearing really good things. We're getting a high response rate. People are eager to move here. They've heard good things about the village. The salary is right. Whatever it is, we provide you with that feedback on a weekly basis. That's also how we measure, hey, how do we know that we're on the right track or we're providing the right candidates, that sort of thing.
So out of all the candidates that you give us, if none of those are acceptable to us, you will do the search again.
100%.
It won't cost us anything.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you again for your presentation.
Vice Mayor?
Yep, I have one. Hi, I'm remote tonight. I have one question, one clarification, and one comment. I'll do the comment first. You might want to recommend to candidates who are trying to learn more about Biscayne Park that they watch watch some meeting videos that are all stored on YouTube. That way, they not only get to see who the players are in the village, they get to hear residents speaking during public comment and at workshops. All of our board meetings are also recorded, and not all of them, many of them are recorded and stored on YouTube as well. So it's a great way for them to understand sort of the DNA of the village while they're in the process, and it might scare some people away, quite frankly.
If I can comment on that too, you're absolutely right. And really the best candidates will have done that research. You will notice the final three, whoever come in, they will have read all your board meetings. They will know that the issues are going on here. They'll know a lot of things. Obviously, we will steer candidates in that direction.
Yep.
We have you provide us with any materials that we can give to the candidates, whether it's benefits, if it's, here's our financial information, anything that's public or any tidbits. Here's our brochure. We provide that to the candidates. We do direct them, but Vice Mayor, I firmly believe in what you're saying, but a really good candidate will have done that research, and you guys will see that, and that's what we'll provide to you.
One would hope. We've had some people who we thought were really good candidates who did do that, and turned out while they may have been a good candidate, they were not a good hire.
That's good.
The clarification regarding the 1-year guarantee. So at any point during the first year that this person doesn't work out, you go find a replacement for us.
Should they be? Yes. I'm not sure.
It doesn't matter why it doesn't matter if they're terminated, if they don't make it through the probation period. if they resign? Does it matter why they left?
I believe in the contract, the only thing is if should there be death, it's pretty morbid, but no, that it does not, it's for any reason.
Okay, very good. And what is the highest level of municipal executive that your company has placed? That list was up there kind of quickly, and I was reading. It sounded like you're specific to an industry. You have a specialty area, which I understand, but you do municipal work as well. It sounds like you've hired people at the highest levels in airports. What's the highest level you've hired for a municipality?
That is a great question, great observation. I don't hide the fact that we've not done a city manager or village manager position. We do have a lot of work with cities and counties. Like I said, the CFO of North Miami Beach, director of HR, people that are one level below the top position, whether it's a mayor, city commissioner, those would be the top. I know some of my competing firms here. Did my research on them, and I'm sure they're great as well. They probably have some of them do have more under their belt, and probably in terms of title. But our success is tied to our process. You know, we've done searches, plenty of searches this year of titles that we've never done before, and really, it's like I said, sure we can have a Rolodex of 20 city manager people that applied, but then we're just recycling the same candidates that didn't work out for another search. And I don't know if those are the top quality candidates. Like those top quality ones are the ones that we reach out to, hopefully, that aren't looking, that are specific to what you are looking for. So the short answer is that the highest title, CFO, Director of Human Resources, probably is where we would go with that.
Okay.
For departments of aviation, we put in CEOs, airport directors, board directors, anything above that. So it's not that we haven't done.
But you have private sector experience and public sector experience.
Correct. We've recently, part of what I was brought in to do was increase the revenue. I've been here over 6 years, and we've since expanded into the private sector where we had zero revenue, and now it's getting close to about 50% of our revenues comes from the private sector.
I thought you said you started in private sector in the airport.
No, we started in the public sector in the airport world, just city and county airports.
I see, at the city and county level. Okay,
Yeah.
Those are my questions and comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Mike, thanks so much for the time. We very much appreciate it. We're gonna switch to our next firm, and if you want to hang around, we have a discussion.
Absolutely. You get to watch everybody else. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So we're gonna queue up our next group. I'm gonna call it CB&A because I don't want to mispronounce the last name. Maybe you can help me.
I'd be happy to. It is a little bit tricky. You don't pronounce the A. It's Colin Benziger and Associates, and I'm the managing partner. I have with me Scott Krim. We've been in the business. Oh, first of all, let me just say we're thrilled to be here. We've done a lot of work in Miami-Dade County for city and county, city managers, never done a county manager in Miami-Dade. We've worked for Bay Harbor Islands, Ball Harbor, North Miami, Surfside. Actually, probably we have the longest serving manager in Surfside in the last 20 years. They tend to turn them over fairly regularly, and Guillermo Amarillo lasted 5 years before he resigned, not under pressure. Right now, we're doing 6 city manager searches. 3 are in Florida, Fort Walton Beach, Juno Beach, which is actually a very similarly sized city or town to Biscayne Park. It's about 4,000 people, Palm Beach County, and we're also doing the city of Sarasota. They have 3 out of state. All of our work, frankly, is gotten by word of mouth and references and proposals. Farthest away right now is Nome, Alaska, of all places. Not quite sure how a Florida company got a search in Nome, but I think it had to do with our process and our reputation. We've been in the business for 27 years. I started the business from scratch and felt that I could do a better job than most of the people I was a city manager candidate in those days, and I just thought I could do a better job of finding people. I was always great at finding people for the right person for the job, whether it was my public works director or or my second baseman on my softball team. So I got into the business. I thought that if I provided a very high quality product, focused on communications, customer satisfaction, and did so at a reasonable price, I'd be successful. And 27 years later, almost in March, it'll be 27. We're still in business, and actually started as a Florida-based firm, and we've now worked in 35 states. We have a process that seems to work anywhere we use it. It works well with any candidates. Our claim to fame, probably as much as anything else, is that we'll tell you what we're going to do, and then we do it. We're completely reliable. We do not believe in unforeseen circumstances. We're the experts. We should know what we're doing. So we quote a firm fixed fee, and we have never asked for more money than the fee that we've quoted. Probably been entitled to it once or twice, but I'd rather be able to make that comment. You can take that fee to the bank. We've never missed a project deadline, major project deadline on one of our searches. So at the beginning of the search, we will agree to a schedule with you, and as long as you don't want to move something, those dates will be hit. What I would say is, in terms of what sets us apart, is our searches are problem-free. We've been doing city manager searches now for 27 years, as I said. We do about 2/3 of the searches in the state of Florida, where a city or county retains a search firm to help them hire their city or county manager. I think it's 145 of the last 223. We have an extraordinary ability to find the right candidate. A couple of our placements, one went on to be basically the county manager in Fairfax County. We hired him in James City County, and another was T.C. Broadnex, and helped him get the job in Tacoma, identified him and helped him get it. And he went on to be the manager in Dallas for 8 years, and now he's the manager of Austin, Texas. Our search is turnkey. We understand you're a small city. Your staff is limited. We are not going to be a burden. Basically, we'll do all the work. We'll need a little bit of help coordinating interviews and hotel reservations when the time comes. I think the thing that really sets us apart is relationships. We've been in business in Florida long enough that pretty much everybody knows us, and we know most of the people. I'm not going to say I know everybody, but the question came up about references, and we know a heck of a lot of people in Florida to ask beyond what the candidate gives us. Our basic process is similar to what you've just heard. We're going to start. We want to sit down with you. We want to interview you. We want to get a chance to know you. We want to watch some of your meetings. We want to be able to develop a brochure that's going to be positive but accurate. You don't want somebody thinking they're coming to Disneyland and realize that, or Disney World, I guess, in Florida, and then realize that it's not that. We want to tell them the goal in our brochure is to include all the information that a candidate might want to have in order to make a decision on whether or not this job is for them. So our brochures tend to be about a dozen pages long, 10 to 12 pages long. There's a few pictures and a few charts in them, and you have copies of one of them, I believe, in your package in our appendices, so you can see what we put together. Some people think they're a little lengthy, but quite frankly, if a candidate isn't interested in the history of Biscayne Park, they can skip that section. If they already know about the weather, they can skip that section too. But they will have the information they need to make at least a preliminary judgment on whether or not this is the right place to be. part of the key of our interviews is getting really to know you as individuals. The best candidates are going to want to know who you are and what's important to you, what makes you tick, and quite frankly, do you play nice in the sandbox? We'll be asked, so we need to know. Once we put the brochure together, and it normally takes a couple of weeks, we will go back and forth with you a couple of times to make sure that you're happy with it, that we haven't missed something. It'll be based primarily on our interviews with the elected officials and any stakeholders you'd like us to talk to. Once we have that brochure, we'll put it out in the marketplace. And we will, well, we use really 4 different approaches to find our candidates. One is outreach. I mean, we are an executive recruiting firm. That's what we call ourselves, and that's what we do. We do advertising. About 25% of our candidates come through that. We do an email outreach. Now, we don't have 60 or 100,000 people in our database, but frankly, there's only about 4,000 city managers or cities in the country that have a city manager form of government that are over 2,500 in population. We think with our 14,000 names, we think we've got pretty much all the city managers that we in the country of cities of any size, and the assistants and others that are interested in city manager positions. We have our database from prior searches that we look at. Our email, we love our email list, quite frankly, because people can forward it to somebody else if they're not interested in the position. And we often get people that way. We can reach out to lots and lots of people, but we're never going to reach out to everybody in the country that might be interested in the position. What we depend on is this process kind of creating a buzz in the industry. It helps that we're so well known in Florida to start with, but it kind of creates a buzz in the industry, and we want people talking about it among themselves, Florida managers from other places. That will help us reach the candidates we're looking for. Once we normally advertise for 3 weeks, and then we'll take a look at the candidates we have, and if we're not satisfied, we'll extend it for another 2 weeks. Now, that doesn't impact the schedule. We'll agree to a schedule at the beginning, and if we need to extend it, we'll just work a little harder on the background checks. We normally, the process, once we've actually closed the position, I will go through the resumes. My partner Scott here will go through the resumes. We'll identify somewhere between 8 and, well, probably 10 and 15 candidates that we think are strong. We'll call them up, and then we'll put them through our test, or an interview. I call it the Colin test. I'm sure Scott calls it the Scott test. And it's about 8 questions that obviously lead to other questions, but they're questions we've honed over the years that let us know if that candidate's really a good fit, and if they're really a good manager. Anybody can pay for a professional resume writer. So we want to talk to them in person, and we have a set of questions that work extremely well for us. Once they pass that, we put them through our background check process. And that includes, well, first of all, we have them answer about 16 questions. We tell them to be brief to the point. We want to know that they can write, and we want to know that they can prioritize. So we tell them that you have about 5, maybe 6 pages to answer those questions. So just hit the high points. We check their criminal history at the state, county, and federal level. We check their civil records history at the county and federal level. We check, frankly, their driving record. Once in a while, you'll see somebody who has a heavy foot, and that can tell you something. Let's see, we verify education and employment. Those are the main things. Oh, we check their financial history as well. Bankruptcies and credit. And, those can be a little tricky to deal with, but if you see somebody who really can't seem to manage their own money, it makes you concerned about whether they can manage yours. As I said, that can be a little tricky with the laws these days, but it does tell you something, and we know how to work with it. Let's see, the next step is references. We look at references a little differently from what you've just heard. We give each candidate a list of people that we want to talk to. In other words, I don't want to talk to their 5 best friends. I'd like to talk to all of their current city council members. I'd like to talk to some past city council members. I'd like to talk to the city attorney, the external auditor, some community activists. Let's see, I'm sure though the personnel director, some peers, some subordinates. Our goal is to interview, and we do it in person. We don't send them a piece of paper. You can learn things when you actually get them on the phone. And our goal is to talk to 8 to 10 people. We know we're not going to reach everybody, but that's why we try to start with about 20 names. We also know that confidentiality can be an issue, so we'll work with a candidate to pin down exactly the people we're going to talk to. But we think references are very important, and sometimes we'll see candidates drop out once they see our list. Again, we're not going to, if it's a really good candidate, we're going to work with them carefully about their references, but we think they're important. We do internet checks, and we do social media checks. And we do all that up front. Trying to think if there's anything else we do. Scott, if you need to jump in, let me know.
I was just going to comment, Colin. We check very thoroughly news media. We want to make sure that these candidates don't have any skeletons in their closet. Frankly, if there is anything of concern, we just won't move them forward.
The bottom line is our goal is to make sure we've got good, solid, clean candidates that are a good fit with you, and there won't be any issues. There won't be any surprises. Once we've done that, then we're going to move into the interview process. We have a pretty standard practice or a procedure we like to follow. We are flexible, of course. If you want to do something differently, we'll work with you on it. But we like the candidates to be seen by the public in a public reception. We like you to see them in a social setting because they will be representing you in your government, at Rotary or whatever, citizens groups. We like to do one-on-one interviews with the city council members because, quite frankly, or village council, frankly, commissioners, excuse me, not council members. What ultimately determines a city manager, village manager's success or failure is his or her chemistry with the elected officials and with the public to a lesser degree. That's important, and the way you can judge that is with the chemistry, and that's what you determine in the one-on-one interviews. Then we like to have the candidates come before the commission as a whole and have you fire questions at them. So when you're done, you will have seen them in a social setting, you will have seen them one-on-one, and you will have seen them in a somewhat like a council meeting, commission meeting. And those are the 3 settings you're going to be working with the most closely. We do like them to spend some time with staff as well, and you can get input from the staff too. Once that's done, we have a very straightforward procedure for selecting your next village manager. And it normally is done in about 15 minutes. And then we'll work with you on the contract. We'll come to make sure that we come to an agreement or that you and the candidate come to agreement on a package that's acceptable and reasonable. That's kind of the process in a nutshell. And I will tell you that we're excited to work with you again, and that we will give you a 125% effort as opposed to the mere 110% effort that everybody else is promising. So having said that, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Benzinger. That was very helpful. And Scott as well, Mr. Krim, thank you. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up to the commission at this time. I do have a couple of questions. To start to hear a pattern. So one of the questions that I have for you is process in advertising the position, and what kind of feedback and guidance you provide to the village on salary, on benefits, on qualifications. You know, what does that process look like from your group?
I am glad you asked that question because I neglected to mention something. One of the things we do every year in Florida is a salary and compensations or salary and benefits survey for every town, city, county manager in the state. So we have data on approximately 300 cities, 330, something like that, what their managers are being paid and what their benefits are. And so we can tell you exactly what your neighbors are being, the manager and your neighbors is being paid, or similar cities and counties nearby. So we typically do a memo that recommends a salary range for you based on comparable cities. Now, in terms of advertising, we'll normally work with the FCCMA, the Florida City County Management Association, the Florida League of Cities. We have kind of mixed feelings about ICMA, the International City County Management Association, only because we're so well known in Florida that it tends to be a situation where we're spending money that we don't need to spend. We do a follow-up survey on where candidates heard about the job. And the indication is that at least for Florida searches, most of the candidates have heard it from us, about it from us. And so we don't do the International City County Management Association generally for Florida. But those are the trade associations that we deal with.
Okay.
Who want us
I-
to will.
No, I appreciate that. What about, are you able to, and are you willing to, I guess, in these processes with your current and past clients, share some of those clients' success stories, I guess, kind of trials and tribulations, if you will, with respect to in-state versus out-of-state candidates? Because that's been something that we focus very acutely on, is experience in Florida, particularly experience in Miami-Dade County. Are you able to, during this process, share with us kind of your experience and your position on that matter?
We did an analysis of our placements a few years ago. And one of the things we found that was if you looked at the placements after 5 years, that really it didn't matter whether you were from in-state or out of state. The success rate was pretty much the same. Now, having said that, I think there's definitely benefit to having somebody from Miami-Dade County, somebody from Florida, ideally. But we've had people that are quite successful from other places. For example, Bay Harbor Islands, the manager there was Ron Wasson. Ron came down from New York. He was there 8 years before he went over to Aventura. So to me, it's it's what you want, what your preference is. That's what we're going to go look for. But we're not going to overlook great candidates from other states that might be a very good fit for you. Admittedly, their learning curve will be a little higher, but that's okay.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. Just one final question for me before I turn it over. What's your group's policy if we do not go with a candidate that you present to us?
I can give you an example of that very easily because I'm living through it right now. Our policy is that if you don't find the candidate you want, we keep going. And we'll go until we have to, until you find the person you want. And it's a firm fixed fee. Now, the case that I'm going to cite right now is a little frustrating to me, but you know what? It's part of the job. And that's one of our clients recently had a council member resign. So instead of having a 5-member council, we had a 4-member council. And when it came time to select the manager, we presented 2 great candidates. and they couldn't figure out between them which one they liked the most. Two were on one side of the issue for one candidate, and two were for the other candidate. And it was like they wouldn't budge. So the search failed in a sense. I mean, we had two great candidates. They just couldn't come to a conclusion. And I am convinced that if we'd had a fifth member, we would have had a placement by now. But we're doing the search over again now because that's part of our policy.
Okay, understood. Well, thank you so much for the time. I'm going to go ahead and open up to the commission.
I go first this time, and I'll make it quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Colin. I'm Matt Kennedy. I'm remote tonight. Thanks for joining us. So I just want to comment real quickly on something you said about getting people from out of state. We have lots of conversations about that, and we recently experienced a manager that did not work out for us, and he came from out of state, and I don't think that was the only reason he didn't work out for us. I know it wasn't the only reason he didn't work out for us. But I also know because my husband's brother is a professional municipal manager. He's been city manager in several states around the country, that these folks tend to move around from area to area, county to county, state to state. And if they have a skill set, they have a skill set. And one of those skills should be learning how things are done locally. So I can certainly appreciate you saying that. I want to ask you one specific question. 2 managers ago was Mario Diaz. And I'm sure you know who Mario Diaz is. He's now the chair of someone get the title for me, please. I'm not going to get it right. The Dade County
Managers Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Mario was with us for, I don't know, 2 years or so. And the reason I bring him up is, number one, he was successful for us. And number two, and he went on to bigger and better things with our blessing. And we gave him his first title. We gave him his first big title, right? So he had worked his way up.
Yeah.
And we gave him his first city manager business card. So for the first time, he was able to say, I'm the manager of a city. Now, we're the smallest city in, the world, but he was still the manager, right? And then he went on to he bolted on to bigger and better things. Good guy, and he did a good job for us. These rising stars, we recognize that we're a place where they could make their mark and do really good things for us, and that we might find ourselves in a succession of those kinds of people. And there are other people we would consider as well. Are there any specific ways that you recruit these rising stars other than putting ads out there and hoping that they see it? When we hired our last manager, who did not work out for us, our second choice was someone who works for the county in sort of an upper level position, and he was our second choice, and we didn't hire him. And he saw the ad and he applied. Is there any way that you go find these people that have higher level positions but have never had the big title and are ready for it, to go recruit them actively for us rather than hoping that they see the job post?
Yeah, yes, we do. And we basically, because of our experience in Florida, we know a lot of those people and we'll call them. Frankly, oftentimes people will call me before I get a chance to call them because they know my name and reputation. Probably a great example of that was Jonathan Lewis, who was in, trying to think if I've got the last name right. I believe it is. Anyway, Jonathan was in Palm Bay as an assistant city manager. Northport was looking for a city manager. I called Jonathan up and said, Jonathan, this is something you might want to look at. He did, and he took the job. He stayed about 8 years, and then he went over to Sarasota County for a year or less than that as an assistant. And within about 3 months, they'd promoted him to the county manager in Sarasota County. So, I mean, Brian Hill was an assistant in a small city in South Carolina, went to James City County, and then now is the CEO of Fairfax County, Virginia.
So back to the first example you gave, Colin, the gentleman the first one you listed. How did you know him? You said you picked up the phone or that he called you. How did you guys know each other if you had never placed him in a position before?
Through conferences, Florida City County Management Association, Florida League of Cities. I also knew his boss, frankly. Lee Feldman was his boss. He was the manager in North Miami. And we placed Lee in Palm Bay. And when Lee got the job in Palm Bay, he hired Jonathan. And so I got to know him through Lee. And I knew he was a really capable young guy. And so I reached out to him.
Okay, so so you do have ways that you're proactively reaching out to people in addition to waiting for them to apply for the job that
No,
would.
absolutely. That's
Okay.
I tried to say that earlier. I guess maybe
Yeah. Yeah, so this whole concept of hiring a rising star is very interesting to me because we had great success with it once. I'm not saying it's the only way. There are people who have lots of experience who we'd be interested in as well, but that worked for us once and it felt right at the time. But we knew from the day we hired him, I said, we're not going to have you long. Please get a lot done for us. Because I know, no, I'm going to stay forever. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I know you're not. But just get some stuff done for us while you're here. And before you know it, he was off. So good for him. Godspeed. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you, Colin. And
Thank you.
thank you as well, Scott.
All right, well, thank you so much for the presentation. Some of the questions were already answered. I wanted to touch base on something you included in the presentation regarding community engagement. There are some formats where you specify that could be done as part of the selection process. Is that within the fee that's been presented?
I'm sorry?
Is
You-
that part of the fee that was
Yes,
presented?
yeah,
Or-
yeah.
Okay.
It's an all-inclusive fee. You're going to pay that fee. There's the exceptions where you might pay less, but that's the fee, and whatever you really want to do within the realm that you feel is going. Our goal is to give you the information you need to make a great selection and to give you the candidates that will give you a great selection. And so if you want to involve the public, we're happy to do that, and we do it routinely. If you
Wonderful.
don't, some councils don't. In that case, we won't.
Good. And then my second question, who runs the interviews within your team? Would it be yourself and your expertise? At what point do we have a point of contact specifically that walks us through? And the second part of the question is, how do you interact with us to let us know that you need more feedback, we need to change or discuss, the search that we're putting forward, whether in its adjustments or not?
Uh, Via meetings, via telephone calls, in terms of who's going to run the interview process, that's somebody from our firm. It would be probably me or Scott. And we'll be there on site, making sure things go as planned. I mean, Scott just got back from Seaside, California, running their process.
We make sure that we have 2 project managers for every search that we do. So you'll have 2 set of eyes from our firm reviewing these resumes, these candidates, and making recommendations, interviewing them. And at the very least, you can expect a weekly email from us letting you know where we are in the process and what we're doing.
And you'll have our cell phone numbers. And as I tell people, I'd like to take Sundays off, but we're available 24/7, 313 for sure. And if you need us on Sunday, it's 365.
And
So,
the interviews themselves are done by you guys or the project managers, the initial search?
well,
The
one of us,
initial-
one of us would be the project manager. The other would be an assistant project manager. We do our screening interviews. You'll do the final interviews, obviously.
Got it. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, for joining us here tonight. As Commissioner Amesler said, a lot of my questions have already been answered. I think that's one of the problems of going towards the end is all the best questions have been asked already. But one thing stood out to me with your proposal, and it's kind of an industry standard. I see it in majority of the proposals tonight. You say you supply 6 to 10 outstanding candidates. Is there ever a time during the process where you'll supply us the complete candidate list of complete applicants so we can see who the total number of applicants were, who applied? And I know you can't supply why they were excluded, but just so we can get a sense of the pulse of what we're getting as candidates. Is there a time where we get the complete candidate list?
Sure. I mean, in fact, we routinely provide that. Neglected to mention that, but you know, once a candidate applies for a job in Florida in a municipal government, it's a public record. So we don't have any problem providing a list. In fact, we generally provide a list with their most recent position on it, so you know who they are. And then if you want the resumes, some of our clients do, some of us don't, but we generally send the list and the resumes to the client.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Can I do a follow-up to your question? So on that list that you provide, do you also specify the reason why they were eliminated?
We generally do not. I hate to put anything in writing about somebody that's negative, but certainly if you have a question about why a particular candidate was eliminated, we will be happy to answer it over the phone.
Got it. Thank you.
And usually it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you know, we do get asked from time to time, and the answer is usually, as I said, straightforward, and we move on to the next candidate.
First off, good evening. I want to thank you for your coming, and I like the idea that you're doing 6 city managers now. So I think that's very important. You probably, the commissioners already asked these questions, but if I repeat it, I apologize. How long does your process take from the start to the end?
You know, I don't think I said that, but it's approximately 90 days. It's usually 3 weeks to put the brochure, like a week or let's say 2 weeks to put the brochure together, 3 weeks to advertise, 4 weeks to do the background checks, a week for you to have the materials in your hands to review it before we select candidates. And then it's 10 days to 2 weeks before you actually conduct the interviews. So.
And will you be keeping us informed on a weekly basis on how the process is breaking?
Oh, absolutely. As Scott indicated, it's a weekly email. There's certain key points where we will absolutely reach out and talk to each one of you. During the recruitment process, normally the first week we get a few resumes. The second week we get a few applicants. And the third week we get a lot. And that's, I think people procrastinate, but it's also the public records. It's a big decision moving to a new job. But I think the Public Records Act in Florida discourages people too, so they wait till the last minute. So we would send you an email at the end of the first week, an email at the end of the second week, and then we'd send you we would call each of you and give you a rundown on where we're at after 3 weeks, and also supply a memo summarizing the results of the recruitment. If we're not happy at that point, we'll extend the deadline. I mean, I'm a little greedy, to be quite frank. I want to make sure you have an outstanding pool of candidates to choose from. And if I've got 5 great candidates at the end of 3 weeks, it's not enough. People drop out, people get other jobs. So I want 10 outstanding candidates to start with, and then we'll whittle them down.
Do you stay with us? I mean, how long do you stay with us after we pick the candidate? I mean, do you help us in case it doesn't work out in the future?
We have a 1-year guarantee. Basically, we ask for our expenses only, and that's usually, you know, a few $1,000s. Really, it's not much compared to the total fee. That's within the 1 year, and then after that, you know, we will work with you. We'd be happy to work with you again on another search. And you know, if it happened to be, say, 14 months after the person was placed, we would probably not charge you the full fee. We'd probably cut it back a little bit.
And if the candidates that you give us doesn't work out, so you'll give us, we do more of a search, right? Let's say if you give us 3
Yep.
candidates and it doesn't work out, you're going to continue to search at no extra charge, right?
Right.
Okay. The thing that's the most important thing to me is the references of where the candidate has worked. I know you can't violate confidentiality rule, but do you have a process to read out what they have done in the past? Let's say if a city manager does something in another city and they come to us, it follows the same process that they had before. Any way that we can do a better job without violating any laws or anything?
Well, that's why we try to reach out to about at least 8. I mean, that's our minimum, 8 references per candidate, and 10 to 12 possibly. we find that if we can talk to 8 people, that if there's something that's a little screwy, something that's wrong, something the candidate's doing that's he or she shouldn't be, or that it's a negative, one of them will let us know. And at that point, we will, depending, we'll either get an explanation, and if we're happy with it, that's fine. We might advance them. If we don't like what we see, we'll drop them, as Scott indicated.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time. We got a few more groups to get through, so, and then after that, we'll be having a discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, thank you for your time and move on to our next group.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and we really do want to work with you. So,
Thank
Great,
you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so next up, I have the Mercer Group. You go. Now you're live.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here this evening. Thank you for having me this evening. It's wonderful to be back in South Florida again. I drove down from Daytona Beach this afternoon. My goodness, it's beautiful here. This is old Florida, just beautiful. What sets Mercer Group Florida apart from anyone else this evening? We only do Florida. We only do city managers, county managers, chief financial officers, HR directors. We don't go outside the state. We know Florida. We know South Florida. We've conducted searches in Palmetto Bay. Most recently, we were in Miami Springs. We conducted searches for Key Biscayne. And now we hope to do Biscayne Park. We don't overload our contracts either. I have 4 people who work with me. I will be your person of contact. I will be personally screening all of the applications that come for the village, and you will hear directly from me. You will also have my personal cell phone number from day one. And you can reach me 24/7 as long as I have that 90 minutes every Sunday to bring me back to where I need to be, then I'm at your disposal throughout the process. I prefer not to do more than 2 contracts at a time because I want to give you that personal attention. Whenever you need me, whatever you need me for this search, I'm here for you. I do not have a database. I feel like a database is only good for 30 days. Anyone who's really searching for a position will have been hired within that 30-day time period. I do know those that if it's the right position, they would apply for it. And I do reach out to those. I know those that say, hey, I really want to get back to South Florida again. And I'll reach out to them personally and see if Biscayne Park is what they're really looking for. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste their time. I'm not going to promise you that we'll get 60 to 80 applicants. That's not realistic in the times we're in. 35 to 40 resumes for a position. And from that, I will present 8 to 10 to you. When I present those 8 to 10 candidates to you, you will have all the information that I have about that candidate and the background work that I can legally do so without their permission. So we will do a comprehensive internet search. I don't do social media accounts. Those get pretty sticky sometimes, and that's pretty much people's opinions. I will send you newspaper articles. where the candidate has been mentioned in the newspaper for one reason or another, I will send you the link and a little summary of that article. And you can choose to open that link and read the entire article yourself. Should we be honored to have the contract for Biscayne Park, the first thing I'll do is sit down with each one of you. I want to hear what your vision is for the village. What are the residents' vision for the village? What are you looking for in your next village manager? What educational requirements do you have for them? What kind of background do you want them to have? I want to meet with anyone that you want me to meet with to get a better feel for what this community needs. If you would like me to meet with staff, I would like to do that for you and hear what they have to say. I want to hear, what do you feel are the opportunities and the challenges that face the village? And then when looking for those candidates, I'll ask them to address those issues as well. So you'll have that information before the candidates come for an interview. I'll develop recruiting materials. I'll work with you. You'll receive a draft of the recruitment brochure. Ours is typically 4 to 5 pages long. We talk about the community. We talk about the government. We talk about the position, the qualifications, the salary, the benefits. We also inform them that we can only maintain confidentiality to the point of the Sunshine Law and what the state requires. Preliminary interviews are done by me via Zoom. And if they're nearby, I will meet with them in person. I like to have that face-to-face contact with the individuals. I will, like I said, I will give you 8 to 10 candidates who I feel are the top candidates that meet all of the qualifications that you have set. And from there, I will ask you to choose your top 3 to 5. After reviewing all of the materials that I send you, their resume, their letter of interest, their responses to the opportunities and challenges, and the news links, you can call me at any time with any questions that you may not want to ask publicly. And I'm there for you. We will do an in-depth background check on your 3 to 5 finalists. And in that is their driving record, their criminal history, their local, state, national, education verification, employment verifications, references, and credit history. If they have a sketchy credit history, I'm not sure you want them running your budget for the village. You will receive a complete background workup on each of the finalist candidates. That's typically 12 to 14 pages of information for you. We like to involve as many people from the community as possible. We will schedule a town hall or a meet and greet, a very informal setting where residents can meet each of the candidates, discuss their concerns one-on-one, and then we'll have a town hall meeting where you can ask each candidate public questions, and then you'll select your next town manager, village manager. We'd like you to have one-on-one interviews with each of the candidates. If your staff would like to meet, if you would like your staff to meet with any of the candidates, we would encourage that as well. We want to find that right individual who fits, who is a good fit for Biscayne Park. Not just can they do the job, it's can they do the job and are they the right fit? We don't want to come again in a year and replace the village manager. We want to do it right the first time. Thank you for this opportunity, and I really hope to partner with Biscayne Park for this search.
Well, thank you very much. So Commissioner Huntington, you remind me that I was kind of monopolizing the first time, and I want to give everyone else an opportunity to ask the first questions. So I'll start on the other end.
I really like your Florida roots. That really resonate with me. That you're a Florida-based company. What, how far your reaches? Have you gone? Like, how far through the state have you gone? Are you mostly South Florida, or have you gone to, the Panhandle? Just give me a sense of.
Entire state.
Okay.
Mary Esther in the Panhandle, and all the way down the state, Fort Myers. I just completed a search for Lake Park. Like I said earlier, I've conducted searches for Palmetto Bay, Miami Springs locally, Key Biscayne, Hallandale Beach.
And you mentioned that you don't want to come back in a year. What's your typical failure rate? How often does that happen where you have to come back and reinstall a new manager?
Well, like an astronaut once said, failure's not an option. We typically see that city managers run 3 to 4 years, and unfortunately, it tends to be with the election cycle. The city manager is not always the most popular person because he has to tell you not only what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. So that makes them kind of a target sometimes.
Thank you so much. How much of our information do you put forward to the candidates? We have recently finished a strategic planning, for the first time ever in the village. So there is a lot already there that can be shared. How do you push that forward to the candidates to know more about ourselves? I feel one of the challenges we have is that we are very particular. We're very small. We don't have commercials. There's no development. At the end of the day, the revenue streams are very limited. So that combined with a very short staff due to our budget makes us very particular. And the ways in which we operate and the history, all of it, I think it's important for context for whoever wants to think about joining in. How do you kind of go through pushing this out there in order to attract the right position for the village?
Like all the other firms here this evening, we're all going to do the same thing. What you need to decide is who you best want to work with and who you can work with. But I do advertise with the Florida League of City, the City and County Managers Association. I do advertise on LinkedIn, and I do advertise on ICMA. And there's a couple other places like GovHR. They have a website that I put my advertisements on as well. And I'm going to reach out to people that I do know that want to be in South Florida again, or who are currently in this area and want to move to another location.
Got it. And I think I had a similar question to Commissioner Huntington when it comes to that success rate. The other challenge has been to have consistency long term. So if in your experience, the positions that you said usually they go around 3 to 5 years. Is that what you said? Okay. So would you say majority of the percentage you've held? Like, how do you measure success beyond the 1 year? Is it that they stay longer? Is it that I'm assuming that's what it is, right? Beyond changing commissions, that it stays and the position still filled?
How do we measure success is that we keep in touch with those cities and villages that we've been in contact with.
Yeah.
And I'll reach out to the mayor, to the commissioners, and say, how are things going?
All right.
You know, once we complete the search and we place the candidate, that's not the last you'll hear from me. And you'll always have my phone number that you can call or you can text and reach me.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you for coming. First off, all the commissioners ask good questions. Sometimes I like to go last because I don't like to repeat the same questions that they have. The references, that's very important to me in the sense on how a city manager does at a previous, even if it's just not a city manager, his previous employment. I don't want us to get the same mistakes as we get here. How do you do that without violating any laws?
When I'm looking at a candidate, a possible candidate for the village, I'm going to do an internet research first. And I want to see why they left their last position. And then I can make phone calls as well. Anybody can Google. Dr. Google is a wonderful thing. It's good and it's bad. But we can get a lot of information from Dr. Google. We can watch previous council meetings, commission meetings, where the candidate has been previously. Newspaper articles, when someone resigns, when they retire. And we can call those places as well.
And again, your process is what, 90 days from the beginning? And will you keep us informed weekly?
Absolutely.
And these town hall meetings that you're talking about, that's included in the fee, right? That's
I'm
not it.
sorry.
The town hall meetings that you were talking about, that's included in the fee that we'll give. We're not gonna have to pay something extra to do that, right?
The town hall would be similar to that, where your residents can come and ask questions. That is an additional expense that sometimes cities will provide cookies and coffee.
No, okay. Okay, thank you very much. I think you answered my questions.
Vice Mayor?
I think I'm all set. Thank you very much for the presentation.
So I have a quick question for you. I know you kind of started off the presentation by explaining that the Mercer Group, you know Florida, you're in Florida. It's kind of the bread and butter, so to speak. Can you talk a little bit about how you handle out-of-state candidates as well, though? So if I mean, of course, we're a Florida city, we're a Dade city or village, but if we want to look at out-of-state candidates, what your group's experience is with out-of-state candidates too.
You will set the minimum qualifications. And from the applicants, I will review those minimum qualifications that you set forth. And if someone from out of state meets those qualifications and any other qualifications that you set forth, I'm most certainly going to set up an interview with them to see what they know. And one of the questions that I ask every single individual that I interview is, what did you do to prepare for this meeting with me today? Tell me what you know about Biscayne Park. Have you watched their commission meetings? Have you read any of the minutes to their meetings? Tell me what you know.
Okay. And how about, do you find that your group has kind of fallen into these scenarios? I know you talk about, getting about 30 to 40 resumes, presenting 8 to 10 candidates. How do you handle, what if there aren't that many? What if you only get 2? Do you kind of continue the search, or do you just bring the 2 and say, this is what we got, so take a selection?
If I get 2 at the end of 30 days, I'm going to be the most shocked. But then I'm going to reach out to you. I will let you know along the way how many resumes that we received. And by the end of the 3rd week, if we don't have a really good selection, I'm going to be honest with you from day one. If I don't have any candidates that I feel are a good fit, that it will be wasting your time, I'm going to tell you that. I think we need to extend the search. Let's try it for another 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for being here and for your presentation. We very much appreciate it. So we got a couple other groups, and then we're gonna, as I mentioned, we're gonna hold a discussion. So let's keep the ball rolling, and let me pull up my agenda and find out who we have next on our list. SGR. So SGR we have next, and that's going to be Ms. De La Cruz.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're really honored to be considered for this search. And I want to let you know that Lynn Barbosa is also here with me. Lynn has a background in recruitment and works full-time as well with SGR. And then some of you may already know Doug Thomas, who's former city manager in Lakeland and still based in Florida. He's the executive vice president of recruitment for SGR. He wanted to be here in person tonight, but he's actually with the city of Miami Beach tonight. So was unable to be in two places at once, although wouldn't that be nice if he could? So I think, Lynn, are you going to share the presentation on your end?
Yes. Can you see it?
Nope, you cannot.
You asked to share. There you go.
Oh, we got something. There we go. We got it.
Excellent. So we're going to go through fairly quickly, touch some key points, and then that way we all have time to ask Q&A. We don't want to waste your time with duplicative information or things you may have already gathered. I think you received a proposal from us as well, and that'll have a lot of the information, more detail in that. So let's see, Lynn, you want to go ahead and go to the next slide?
Yes. I needed to turn on my
right when you stood up, I asked. A little bit of background about SGR, and I'm not going to read this slide to you because my assumption is that all of you can read yourselves. But what I will say is that one of the things that really stands out in regard to SGR is that we're one of the largest recruitment firms, local government recruitment firms in the nation. But we also do a lot of other things with local governments, such as leadership development, interim services, and consulting, strategic foresight. And we're also partnered with the Alliance for Innovation. So that helps expand our reach and network, but it also helps us with our candidate sourcing and helps our recruiters with networking and being able to provide that full service to our clients. So our mission is to help local governments become more successful by recruiting, assessing, and developing innovative, collaborative, authentic leaders, which is kind of a mouthful, but it's the acrostic RADICAL. And we really like to help local governments. At the end of the day, we consider ourselves a partner and supportive for local government organizations. And so that's what we exist to do.
All right. So can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Good evening. My name's Lynn Barbosa. Krissa introduced me. I have over 30 years myself in local government, 27 years with the city of Las Vegas in Nevada. The last 5 managing their talent acquisition division. And then I've been with SGR since I retired from the city of Las Vegas for 6 years. I've done leadership development and training and executive search for the last 6 years for cities and counties nationwide. And I am based in Long Beach, but we have recruiters throughout the United States, including Doug. Doug is, and Krista mentioned Doug, he is our primary recruiter in the state of Florida, but we also have 2 other recruiters, and I'll get to the primary person who would be managing this project for you all in the next slide. But Doug has worked for us. He has a long history of senior leadership positions in local government. He has his MPA, as you can see, so very, very much accredited, and not only on the education side, but also just hands-on experience as a city manager. He's last 9 years been an executive recruiter with SGR. And as Krista mentioned, he's with the city of Miami Beach this evening, and he's doing their strategic planning workshop. So has an extensive network in Florida, as I know a lot of the other firms that presented tonight do. Kevin Knutson would be the lead for this search. He has 30 years in municipal management. I know you all received this information in advance, so I won't read through this, but he's an extensive career in local government in senior leadership positions, as well as master's degree and professional associations nationwide, as well as in the state of Florida. So I won't go over everything that is much like what you've heard. I would agree with some of our very capable competitors that mentioned this is a similar process, right? For, finding out a little bit about a lot of candidates at the beginning of the search. So we call that the funnel, where you have a large candidate pool and you're finding out about their minimum requirements as far as education and experience. And with each progressive step, you're finding out more about them, not just what they've accomplished, but how they go about their work. So we start out with a comprehensive understanding of the organization, and Doug having a really good feel for the landscape within Florida local government organizations, and working extensively in Miami-Dade, but also Broward County and elsewhere, will develop a specific set of questions to ask the stakeholders that you identify at the beginning of the process. And the key to that being, that well-rounded understanding that we need to have in order not only to evaluate candidates, but also to really be an extension of the village and be able to answer questions from candidates. I think one of the things that sets us apart as a search firm is that we really design a process that's two-way. And we'll go over some of the other differentiators, but in today's labor market, it can't just be a one-way process where we are asking all the questions as the hiring authority, but not devoting equal time to allowing the candidate to find out about the organization. And I know some things were mentioned about, the responsibility of the candidate to watch prior commission meetings, and certainly that's part of it, but it's also facilitating those engagement sessions so they have an opportunity to interact not only with you as commission members, but members of the leadership team, members of the community, and feel comfortable about this opportunity as a fit for them as far as a next step career-wise. We do have a dynamic state-of-the-art talent marketing package. So we do have an extensive network, and we have a slide, we'll go over those numbers quickly. But this third bullet here, the candidate vetting, ensures in-depth understanding of the position and organization. When we get to this stage with our candidates, we're doing a full stage 1 and stage 2 media. And just real quickly, what that means is you've heard some of the other search firms mention the online check. We do that, but we also have a very comprehensive process whereby we find all media coverage. So this is where you'll reveal any potential areas that we'd want to ask more questions around, maybe the circumstances surrounding a separation from a prior agency. So it's not necessarily a disqualifier as much as it is a piece of information from which we'll develop questions so that you can find out a little bit more from those candidates. Candidate understanding of the organization, I mentioned that, so that's really important. We spend a lot of time getting to know everything about village operations, the community, what the challenges are, so that we can be fully transparent with our candidates and prospective candidates. Much like the other firms, we have a 12-month placement guarantee. So if for any reason you're not satisfied with the results, we will redo the search for no additional cost. It's only hard cost passed through for advertising and travel. This is the sections of the position profile brochure. Social media marketing. This really is so much of what SGR brings to the table as a nationwide firm that has been in existence since 1999. we've built up our network. We are in weekly communication with local government leaders nationwide through our 10 and 10. That's a database of approximately 40,000 subscribers. So we post our opportunities not only within the weekly newsletter that goes out, but we also have a job alert system that targets those who have expressed an interest previously in city management positions. In this case, we have them for all of the different operational areas of cities, villages, and counties. Typical source of semifinalists, again, just emphasizing much of what differentiates us is because we have been an established public sector search firm since 1999. We have that really robust network. So 65% of our placements come from direct outreach, whether it's the weekly newsletter, social media, and then you can see the portions, the remaining percentages come from national trade advertisements, professional websites. I know some of the other search firms mention that, state trade advertisements, and then other personal and other referral sources. So what's really important to understand here is that we, from having that experience casting a wide net, we really know which ad sites are worthwhile. And this is all in addition to passive candidate sourcing. And that's, of course, reaching out on behalf of this opportunity and initiating those conversations with strong prospects. This is all in the proposal, so I won't go over all this. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to get too much in the weeds. I want to be very respectful of your time. But this is much like what I went over in one of the initial slides as far as the timing. From the date that the position profile is approved by the village, it's 90 days to the time we're on site and conducting finalist interviews. We have that strong national recruitment. That's our footprint in US. So over 450 local government recruitment clients in 37 states. The other part of this slide is really, really important for Florida searches. This is the presence that we have in Florida in the professional associations. And I won't read all these bullets for you, but just suffice to say that Doug Thomas is really integrated into the local government professional association scene there in Florida in a number of different ways. So this allows him to do that passive candidate sourcing. This allows him that consistent and continuous communication with people who might be interested in different opportunities within the state of Florida. And it results in a higher quantity and quality of candidate pools. These are recent city manager type recruitments we've done nationwide. Again, this is all part of the proposal, so I won't go into too much detail. Other recent Florida recruitments, you can see we've done recruitments all over the site, all over the state, and for all different executive positions. So from Director of Public Works to obviously city manager, town manager, village manager, finance positions, all operational areas.
Excellent. Thanks, Lynn. And I think one of the things I really want to touch on, because that we have a slide in there that's called the importance of social media marketing, I think, and I meant to change that to digital marketing because we're utilizing various tools. They're not all social media, but we do have almost 20,000 followers on LinkedIn that actively engage with our content. So that is going to help us reach those active and passive candidates or potential candidates. Lynn mentioned our email subscribers, but we also have over 500 city management professionals who have subscribed to receive our job notices. So they are subscribed to receive all of those as we send them out. So I think those are kind of some of the key points. If you have any questions about some of this data, please feel free to ask, but I'm trying to honor your time and I know it's a lot of words. So we can go ahead and go to the next one, Lynn.
Okay, yes. So again, I've woven this into both Chris and I into the other slides. This is a survey that was conducted by SGR about just us initiating a survey to find out how we rank against competitors, and we're happy with those results. All right, questions, thoughts, anything you'd like to get a little bit more in detail with?
Bit fast, so I apologize, but I felt like maybe that would give you all more time to ask questions and focus a little.
Yeah, certainly. No, thanks very much for the presentation and in providing us the opportunity. So again, I'm going to work backwards so we can mix it up a little bit. Anyone want to get us started?
I'll just ask, I don't have many questions. I just wanted to understand. So your expertise, would you say, I saw in one of the slides that you said you have 40,000 database, and about 1,500 of that was in Florida. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say, how much is this your area of expertise, both Florida and government and recruiting specifically for this position?
So the village manager, city manager position is the #1 position that we recruit for. Speaking to Florida specifically, and Lynn, you jump in here too, so I apologize. I just jumped in on this one, but Florida is actually our second largest state as far as number of clients that we work with. So Texas being our first, and then Florida is our second. So we are very active in Florida recruitments and have a large network there. I hope that answers your question. Lynn, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and then and when you talk about recruiters, so we would have 2 people on top of this account, if I understood you correctly.
So basically, Kevin would be your primary point of contact on this recruitment. Doug would be playing a support role for Kevin. They're a great team, kind of a dynamic duo. They've done a few searches together already, and so Doug would be there to support. Doug has more experience with SGR specifically, and so he would be providing support to Kevin, but Kevin would be your primary point of contact.
And when it comes to his experience, is it also the most experience within government and Florida?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Are you scrolling back? Okay, thanks, Lynn. I was good from memory, but that's never a good idea. So you can kind of see some of Kevin's experience, which is pretty extensive, but all in the local government, mostly in the local government realm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I want to echo on Commissioner Amesler's questions a little bit. When you talk about your, we're the second largest area you work in is Florida. I'm just looking over your recruitments between 2019 and current, and I don't see a lot of Florida city managers that you've placed. Can you just talk about what recruitment specifically do you work in Florida if it's not city managers?
Sure. Well, we so really any position in Florida. So I mean, not any position in Florida. Sorry, any local government position for the most part, we're able to tackle. I don't want to make that blanket statement in case somebody sees this or follows back up and calls me out on that. But for the most part, we can recruit for any local government position. So do they have? Oh, good. Thank you, Lynn. You're so good. I was going to try to remember off the top of my head, but again. So you can see here some of the positions that we've recruited for. And I had 2 to add, and I didn't add them that we're doing right now. I think at least one of the, I can look that up really fast, but I think at least one of those is a city manager.
And I'm happy to go into more detail on that as well, but we have done a number of city manager searches nationwide. That is the majority of the searches that we conduct, in addition to department director level searches for cities and counties nationwide. But I think too, what Doug has accomplished in Florida is working primarily with small to mid-size cities, similar in size to Biscayne Park. So I think, just we have the expertise on staff, Doug and Kevin included, having done searches for positions that directly report to a board. There are some others on here in addition to city county manager, and they have the expertise of the entire team. That's also in addition to just the two of them that would work together. Other recruiters that have done a high volume of city manager recruitments, we meet on a regular basis and assist each other, sort of leverage that experience and those networks.
Thank you so much for clearing that up for me. Thank you. That's all I have.
Can you go again? How long is your whole process? Is 90 days, right? And
90.
Yeah, and you'll be keeping us informed on a weekly basis.
Yes, the recruiters do a weekly update, and so that initial process where we're doing the organizational inquiry and analysis, we call it. That's where we're interviewing stakeholders. That's typically a 2 to 4 week period within which we're not only interviewing the stakeholders that you identify to get that well-rounded picture of the community and the opportunity, but our graphics team is producing the profile. So that typically takes 2 to 4 weeks. And then once you approve that, it's 90 days to the time that we're on site, conducting finalist interviews and subsequently extending an offer.
Okay, and also, can you explain a little bit more about your background checks and references? The references part is very important to me and what they do in other cities before they came.
Yeah, absolutely. So the background check is really similar to what you heard the other search firms mention. It's the criminal history, it's the driving record, it's the education verification process. It's definitely financial history. So very in-depth. We review, we go over any questions we may have with the candidate, and then we advise you all of anything that might have come up on a background. The reference checks, we do use a software platform called Skill Survey. We do ask for specific current or former professional reference within the candidate's background. So what we're asking them for is a certain number of subordinates, a certain number of direct reports, especially for a village manager in this case. We'll want to talk to a certain number of elected officials, peers, and any other managers if they worked within an industry other than local government. And I have heard the conversation about, that the importance of the reference checks, and I couldn't agree more, because what you're finding out up until that point is really what have they done, right? What have they accomplished that's similar and transferable over to Biscayne Park? And then the reference check and some of the other vetting steps that we complete, they're about how that person goes about their work, right? So the media searches will show us, what type of coverage did they receive in terms of community feedback? And that'll be all included, especially in someone who's had a long and a career in local government. The professional reference check, we start with the skill survey. If there are questions, once we issue and submit that report to the commissioners, then we discuss that as a group. And if follow-up calls, if you all decide we need additional information, we do those follow-up calls. We request additional reference information from the candidate, and we make sure that you have the information at that point in the process to feel as comfortable as you can. There is no 100% guarantee on anyone, just because, right? Everybody's, it's people hiring people. But as much and as thorough of a vetting process that exists, I believe that's certainly what we conduct here within SGR.
Vice Mayor?
I'm good. Vero and Ryan chased down my follow-up questions.
Alrighty. So I just have one quick question for you, and one kind of funny note. I noticed that your group did the recruitment for the town manager for South Windsor, Connecticut, which is funny because that's the town that I grew up in, and I don't often see
Oh,
that.
wow.
So that was interesting. Um,
And
so
that was
I-
Doug too.
was and it was Doug. Well,
Yeah.
so it's Doug was kind of the next topic that I was going to jump to. I know he's obviously busy tonight, but it sounds like Doug kind of is the boots on the ground, so to speak, down here in Florida. Because I think one of the questions, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this on his behalf, but how granular Doug can get with the local governments down here. Because I know the vice mayor made this a point to ask one of our other candidates here this evening. What about these these younger kind of up and coming candidates, that may not have the managerial experience per se, but could potentially serve in that role. They may not be on these websites. They may not be subscribed to your LinkedIn. They may be in a department in the county, and some of the people that really know those folks are just the people that have the real the real long experience here in Miami-Dade County. So can you talk a little bit about that? How your group works, within Miami-Dade County, within South Florida.
I absolutely can. But what I think is also important is that a lot of the value we bring is we're a nationwide firm. So I heard some discussion around in-state experience. I've done a number of Texas searches, and that comes up often. It's certainly preferred, but if you find a really strong up-and-comer that has the capacity, the potential to scale their experience, whether it's in a smaller agency or at a department level in Florida, or whether it's from out of state, I think a lot of what we help you do is evaluate that potential. And I heard some discussion around a prior village manager named Mario that was a real success story. He was only there 2 years. That happens with an up and comer at a certain point in their career. But as long as we go into that as an organization, understanding, hey, these are the things we need this person to get over the finish line. If they're here 2 to 3 years and get us down that road, perfect. Sometimes we work with organizations that want somebody who's a little more seasoned and tenured. Maybe they're 5 to 8 years out from retirement, but they bring a wealth of information, that depth and breadth of city and village operational experience. So it really depends on what you share with us during the exploratory process, that beginning stakeholder interview process that you tell us is most needed in Biscayne Park. Doug, with 9 years in executive search just in Florida, that's after his career in the Midwest, has a lot of connections with local government professionals at all levels. At the manager level, not city manager, but manager within an operational area of local government, up to city manager. And a lot of the value too is the volume. We have a number of recruiters. It's still a personalized process for all of our candidates and our clients. But the volume comes into play when we're working with all these different agencies nationwide and, of course, within the state of Florida. And we know who those top contenders were in a recent search, in a search we did 2 years ago. I can't tell you how many times I'm calling up, my number 2, my number 3 candidate for different director and city manager searches and asking, hey, would you consider this? And those really strong candidates are asking me a lot of questions too, right? About the organization, the community, the challenges. So he is granular, but we also, as a nationwide search firm, bring that volume of top contenders who competed at a really high level in other searches.
Understood. Well, thank you very much. If there's no further questions from the commission at this time, thank you again for being here with us and presenting. We have one more, and then we have a discussion to be held after that. So thanks very much, and we'll hop on to the next candidate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So last but certainly not least, our final group with us tonight is S. Renee Narlock and Associates, and please correct me if I pronounce that wrong. Are you with us, Renee?
I am here.
Here we go. Hi there.
Hi.
So the floor is yours.
Thank you. How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Good. I think I might be the last one. I'm not sure, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I want to thank Bradley Weissman for helping to coordinate all of this. He's been very helpful this week. And while I did do a presentation, I'm actually not going to go into that. I'm just going to share with you a little bit of information here and make sure that I answer your questions. I know this is an arduous process for you, and I think you've garnered a lot of information tonight. So hopefully I can share with you a little bit about what we do and how we do it, and why we're a good pick for you as a recruiter. I have been doing public sector recruitment for many years now. I'm going to say 25 plus years. I have staff that's been with me for quite a while, and we focus primarily on public sector recruitment. That means local governments, city, county, special districts. I'll say nationwide, and I'll clarify that a little bit as we go forward. But I started out working for a company called David M. Griffith and Associates way back in the day. It was bought out by Maximus, and then I did recruitment for both DMG and Maximus. And then Maximus got out of the business, and one of the VPs of recruitment went on his own, Bob Murray, and he started his own practice out in Sacramento. And I went with Bob, and basically he did his office on Sacramento, did everything on the West Coast, basically the 8 Western states on the other side of the Rockies. And I did everything this side of the Rockies. And we worked in that capacity for a very long time. I mention that because I do have experience on working on the West Coast. There were many searches that they were doing on the West Coast that I was involved in, but my territory was this side of the Rockies, Midwest, Texas, certainly Florida. And I did that with Bob for about 8 years, and then he retired. He offered me the company, and I said, I'm going to just incorporate myself. And so in 2014, that's exactly what I did. I incorporated my own firm. I am a native of Florida. I grew up in Pensacola, moved to Tallahassee to go to school many years ago, and just loved it in Tallahassee. Quality of life and nice folks. And that's it. I know my way around Florida. I certainly have done a lot of work in Florida. I don't plan on leaving Florida anytime soon. And that said, though, I've done plenty of work outside of the state, as have my colleagues. Excuse me. I'm going to apologize now for my throat. I'm getting over something that I don't know what's going around. A little bit about that's a little bit about who we are. A little bit about what we've done. I don't know, 500 plus searches probably in my career. Again, at the public sector level, local government, cities, counties, special districts, large agencies, small agencies. City of Dallas comes to mind, Dania Beach comes to mind, all in between. Different kinds of positions, a lot of city managers, a lot of county managers, a lot of department director level positions, police chief, fire chiefs, HR directors, planning directors, economic development directors. I mean, it's just a gamut of different kinds of positions. Some division managers, really not any further down in the org structure than that for the most part. Some nonprofits, because a lot of folks like yourself serve on other boards, nonprofits. You love what we do for you and finding your village manager. And when you need an executive director at the nonprofit you work for, you come to me and say, hey, Renee, can you help us here? And the answer is yes. So I don't know, probably 5, maybe 10% of our portfolio over the years has been for nonprofits, but we stay in our lane, which is public sector recruitment. We've been at this a long time, probably many years before most of the companies that you talk with. We've seen a lot of change over the years. I love what I do. I get to meet some of the brightest and the best. There are a lot of dedicated public servants who do great work. I love how the job itself has changed over the years and how local government has changed over the years. So a little bit about how we do what we do. we have a good process, a very good process, I think, gets us from point A to B. I tell my staff all the time, you hire us to find you good people. That's the ultimate goal here. We can run a great process, which we do, and we need to, but ultimately we need to produce, and we need to produce good candidates for you. I don't have to have 50 of them. I have to have a good, solid, smaller number of folks for you to have choices about who you would like. I don't want to bring you the same person 5 times over, 10 times over, carbon copy candidates. I want some diversity of every kind. I want them to come at this different ways, be at various stages of their careers, have done private and public, or maybe just private, but they've got to prove some things to me. If they've only had private experience and they're coming at this, and that's fine. That's a possibility. But a lot of the things that we do are just really kind of intuitive, right? We've done this for so long. We know good people when we see them. We know how to find them, which is super important. And we do create a strategy on the front end of every search. While our process is similar for each search, the strategy is not. We need to find the right person for right now for you. And so we have to really look at that and take time on the front end, talk with you, listen, learn, research, do all the things that we need to do for that, what I call the ideal target. I think it was maybe the vice mayor that mentioned that someone might be a good candidate, but that doesn't make them a good hire. And to that point, those are the things we're looking at. Where is that good fit, right? What is really going to work for the village, for the next person that comes in? Not only skill sets, not only experience, not only, backgrounds and education and all that stuff, but really, who are they as a person? Why do they want to come there? Are they going to connect with the community, with the organization? Are they going to want to live life there? Are they going to feel like they're being challenged professionally there? Because people want to grow, quite frankly, in their profession. And so there's just so many different things that you have to look at, not only in trying to recruit candidates on the front end and make sure we have a good pool, but then as we go through the selection process too, we have to look at a lot of things. I'll just tell you that I pretty much did not listen to too many of the presentations tonight, other than when it got to the question and answer session. I chimed in to see what kinds of questions you were asking, and because that's important to me to know what your concerns are and what matters to you, not only right now, but as we go through the process. And I heard a lot of what you were saying and the concerns that you were sharing, the questions that you were asking. We have to make sure this is a good fit both ways, right? I know I work for you. I'm going to bring you good candidates. But the reality is, if it doesn't work for the candidate too, they're not going to stay. They're not going to flourish. They're not going to be a good fit. It's not going to be good for anybody. And so I think that's where we're kind of different than other firms. It's my guess. I don't really know. I don't follow other firms and what they do. I know that candidates we work with say that they really enjoy working with us. I know that they feel like they're well taken care of when they're our candidate. We don't treat them like a number, and we don't just, go down and check off the list and that. We connect with people. This is a people business. And so we really go the extra mile to connect with people, to let them know that we understand this is an important decision for them. This is a career decision. It might include a relocation. It might include other members of the family that have to be uprooted and move somewhere new. And it's got to work. It's got to work both ways, or it doesn't work at all. That's it. Some of our clients I know Florida experience is important. Some of our clients just in your area alone, we placed Lee Feldman at Fort Lauderdale. He was there 8 years or so. We did Miami Beach 2 times, not because we didn't get it right the first time, but the first guy was there 12 years. And when he retired, then we came in, they asked us to come back and do the next one. We did Dania Beach not long ago. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the manager there used to be with the village. Small world. Um, we have done Coral Springs at a time where they really needed someone to come in and kind of shake things loose for them. They had increased taxes in a very, very long time. It's a very difficult conversation to have. And they needed someone that could come in and have the conversations. And so we were very successful with that search. We have done work for Miami-Dade County recently, but it's been primarily in the Public Housing and Community Development Department. They just got used to using us because, again, we bring good candidates. So we've done quite a bit of work there. Broward County, we've done work there. We've done work all up and down the east coast of Florida, the west coast of Florida. We recently did St. Pete Beach City Manager search. That was a super great search. We brought someone that everybody was looking at her at first going, I don't know, Renee, I don't know. And I just said, can you just trust me on this? They did. They took a shot at her, and she is there as doing a stellar job. They made a very good hire there. I've done work all over the state of Florida. Seminole County, I have a multi-year contract with them. I will say this, I guess it's a testament to us. Our clients hire us again and again and again. And many of them hire us on multi-year contracts. So we have, I don't know, a contract with Seminole County right now that goes to 2027, I think, many years, because we had a very good experience with them hiring both their county administrator and their county attorney last year. And people hire us again because of it. I think we probably included a letter of recommendation in our proposal. We normally do that. We like to do that. We have a lot of those letters of recommendation. We don't overdo it, but they're very consistent with talking about, I'm going to say they talk about how much we care, because we understand the difference that a good leader makes in an organization. It has an impact. It has an impact on how things move forward, how things get done, and we care because of the community members. We think they deserve that. We heard some of your folks speak at the beginning of the meeting. I thought that was great. I enjoyed their input. I'm glad they were there. And we like to make sure that we, even through our recruitment process, we work with you to incorporate any community element that you want us to include there. And we have some recommendations that we can make on that. I won't go into too much detail on our recruitment process other than to tell you that it's very thorough. We develop a candidate profile that is information that people who are not looking for a job will see. We will get it before them. They're not going to find this in an ad. Some people may see it in an ad, but they're going to get something coming across their desk. It's going to be very informative, to the point. They don't have a lot of time. We make it easy for them to apply. Where we tell them what they need to know to whet their appetite for this position. We're very good at selling your organization and highlighting the benefits of not only the job, but of living in the village. Why would they want to do that? We include all of that, so they have a moment to look at it. They can get everything they need. And then that's what leads to us having further conversations with them. We're very aggressive at doing outreach. We do not rely on ads. We do not rely on our brochure, although our brochure brings us a lot of great candidates. We're very aggressive at outreach. We have our methods of finding people in advance. We know they're qualified. We want to talk to them and find out, what do they bring to the table? In addition to that, we've got all kinds of contacts in the industry, been doing this a long time. We always look for new talent. We always want, I heard some people talk about the up and comers. We always want a mix of those in the group. And we have ways to find those folks. And we do, because they just bring an energy level a lot of times that organizations need. And again, they want to grow and they want to take on challenges. And there's some drive there that we're looking for. We're good at screening candidates. We're good at doing preliminary interviews with candidates, asking the right questions, all the searches that need to be done of public records and what's in their background, and what do we need to know about ahead of time. And we dig however deep we need to. We make recommendations. We set up final interviews. So Our job is to make sure that you have all the information you need to make a good decision about your next hire. And we do background checks, we do reference checks, they're in-depth checks. We talk to people. If they give us people and we don't see someone on there that we want to see, we'll go back to them and say, hey, I need to talk to someone that worked with you at this place or this place. Because we need to have information that we can give to you, so you can make a good decision. We can help you do that. We're in it through negotiations if you need our assistance with that. We're in it as far as responding to people. Another thing I've had candidates tell me is they greatly appreciate our communication with them, because we understand that these folks are sometimes sticking their neck out for a job, right? In Florida, everything is public, and you put your name out there and the whole world knows that you're considering this job, and you can risk the job that you have by competing in Florida. And that handicaps us in Florida. So I will tell you, I like to do national searches. I know you're interested in people who have Florida experience, but there are people who have Florida experience that may be outside of the state right now. They've gone somewhere for a few years. Maybe they went to Minneapolis, maybe they went to Texas, maybe they went to California, and they've done some great things. And the timing is perfect for them to come back. Maybe they're originally from the area. They grew up in Miami-Dade County. They went to school in Miami. Their extended families in the area. It can be a number of reasons, but there needs to be a tie that, again, tethers them back to the area. I don't want to miss out on them because I'm just looking in Florida right now. I want to reach out everywhere. The more people that know about this opportunity, the more good candidates I'm going to have ultimately. We do keep people updated. Even when we're done, we let people know, thank you for your interest in this position. The village has made a decision, and we're very kind about that. People don't get that anymore, and they appreciate that. So that's kind of our recruitment process. As far as why us, our experience, which I can go into more detail about. Our team, I've got a solid team. We know what we do. We know our lane. We're good at it. We stay on it. We're not just recruiting candidates for you. We're running a search process. It's got to be a good process. It's got to be fair. It's got to be objective. We can't have anybody at the end say, oh, it wasn't done right. I was treated poorly or whatever. We've got to do it right. We've got to keep it moving. We can't stall. And then we've got to make sure that when it's all said and done, we have a quality pool of candidates for you to talk to. So our process is important in making that happen. I can't stress this enough. Our reputation is very solid. We are asked to speak at the ICMA conference, do sessions on executive recruiting, do session on recruitment and retention. The last 2 years, I've been asked personally to do sessions at the Florida Association of Counties conference, a statewide conference. It's been very well attended by people. People are struggling to find good people. The local governments, our HR directors are struggling to find good people, and they want us to help them do that. I've been hired by a couple of entities recently who have asked us to come in and look at processes and just tell them, how can we do better? How can we get better candidates? And how can we get them? So our reputation is very solid in the industry. A lot of candidates tell me that they like working with us as a recruiter. I hear that all the time. And then our expertise. We know the pitfalls. We know how to keep things moving forward and anticipate things ahead of time, be sensitive to things throughout the process, make sure that we cover all the bases so that from start to finish, you have a good experience as a board, the candidates have a good experience, and then we accomplish what our goal is, which is to bring you a good solid pool of candidates. So with that, I'm going to take a breather here and answer any questions that you have.
Very well, Renee, thanks so much for the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and open up to the commission and start the question process.
I'll start. I just have one quick question. I see in your proposal you list 3 on-site / video appearances. Is that standard with your proposals, that you normally do video versus on-site, or how's that normally break down?
To tell you the truth, for a city manager or village manager position, my preference is to do on-site meetings. I think it's just a good way, you know, as I said, it's all about relationships. I think it's a good way to sit down with each of you individually, which is what I would like to do at the onset, is to sit down with you and listen to you. And I think just meeting you in person helps me to understand you better, but also you get a sense of who I am. You know, I've had people tell me, Renee, you do fine on video, but you're so much more personable in person, you know, and I think that would give you a comfort level. So basically it comes down to, if we have a client who finds it difficult to get people in meetings, then we will be open to doing a video meeting. We don't have a problem with that. People are more comfortable with that sometimes. Some of our clients are like, oh, no, let's do it via video. That said, we will do whatever your preference is. But typically, we like to do an in-person on-site visit. Second meeting is usually when we recommend candidates. We sit down and we tell you, okay, this is what we've done. This is who applied. This is what we think. This is what we recommend. Next steps are interviews. So that's an on-site meeting to recommend candidates. And then the third set of meetings is the actual interviews with candidates on-site. And I will tell you, that is a meeting that needs to be done in person. I have to be there. We have to be there for that meeting. You're going to have questions about candidates. You're going to have questions about the process. We cannot do that via video. That is, I won't do that meeting via video if there's any way that I can get around it.
Thank you so much for touching on that, clarifying for me. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm. Just want to thank you for coming. I have no questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I have one question. So when you come back to us with a preliminary list of candidates, what would we look at? Is that a formal sort of summary that you present per candidate? What do you discuss and what do you provide us with? What materials?
Yes. I provide you with the materials that we have received from the candidates, and then I give you a presentation of what each of these candidates brings to the table, what I found out about them, why I think they deserve a further look, and anything that has come up that I feel you need to know about. And what I mean by that is, in my preliminary interviews, I ask candidates, is there anything in your background, whether it's true or not, that might cause some pause or concern or might just warrant further explanation on your part? And then I list a whole litany of things, you know, DUIs, criminal convictions. I mean, it's a whole, and I give those as examples just to start that conversation. So anything that I learn at that point in time, I will share with you. You know, we're in Florida, everything's public, it's out in the open, it's open meetings. You know, I don't want to put out there, you know, a lot of detailed information at that point, but I make sure that you know, either through my conversations with you prior to the meeting or at the meeting, what you need to know about any hurdles or any concerns that a candidate may bring. I would have vetted those out further already and have enough information to present to you about that particular thing, if there is anything. A lot of times there's not. But I want to make sure, again, that you have all the information you need to know to move them on to the next step, which would be an in-person interview with you.
Got it. And then the part I see in your schedule, week 10, screen resumes, 11, 12, recruiter interviews, top candidates. Would this be you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor?
Oh, me, I'm sorry. Renee, thank you. Your presentation was very thorough. What I was hoping to ask you was about outreach, proactive outreach to candidates rather than passive responses, and you addressed it already, so I'm good to go.
Okay. That enables us to bring you a diverse pool of candidates. As I mentioned, I don't want them all to look the same.
And I'm the one who spoke earlier to another candidate about the rising star, so I was glad you mentioned that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Renee, I have a quick question for you here.
Sure.
So in forgive me if you said this and maybe I just kind of missed it, but we've heard from some of the other groups about how they like to involve, maybe proactively involve or involve at the recommendation of the commission, involve staff, department heads, and most importantly, potentially residents. And much earlier on in our meeting, we talked a little bit about how residents have been involved in this process in the past. So is that something that your group does? Is that something you consider involving those groups of folks in this process, and or presenting potential candidates to them, meet and greets, town halls, things like that?
Yes. I love that that matters to you, because you know, whoever the village manager is going to be connecting with the community. And it's actually to the benefit of the candidates to be able to have a meet and greet and get to meet folks that they're going to be working with a lot, that are going to be at the meetings. And this is an opportunity for them to see them up front, know what it looks like, right? Really get a handle on the job. As far as resident input on the front end, on the very front end, I want to underscore that no matter who I talk with, I understand it's this group here who is going to be doing the hiring. So the conversations I have with you may be different with other folks I talk to. For instance, if you tell me on the front end, I'm going to ask all of you, who do you want me to talk to? In addition to talking with each of you individually, who do you want me to talk with? A lot of times what I hear is, we'd like you to talk with our department directors. We'd like you to hear what they have to say. Now, I understand they're not doing the hiring. We're not going to put them in that position of weighing in on who should be their boss, but they still have information and participation that is valuable in this process if you as a board are inclined to do that. We may say, okay, we're going to come on site, we're going to meet with each of you individually, and then we'd like to have a group meeting, a Q&A with your department directors, because we want to see the bench, we want to hear what they have to say, we want to learn from them, and that'll give us a sense of the right kind of person that will fit with this group, right? And then at that point, we may say, you know, do you want us to talk with the community? We can either be available to hold a meeting where community members can come and weigh in. We can put a survey out for community members. It can be an anonymous survey if they don't want to say who they are, or maybe they do, and that's fine. But, you know, ask them questions. What do you think is important in the next village manager? You know, what attributes do you think, you know, what does success look like for the next village manager? We can ask them some questions and get some feedback from them. That's very good for us. It's good for you. It's good for the community. And quite frankly, it's good for the candidates. So we can incorporate different things throughout the process, even if it's nothing more than putting a link on your webpage, your village front webpage of, you know, if you'd like to weigh in on what you think is important to village manager, click here. And then again, they get to fill in something that comes directly to us, and we get some. So there's different things that can be done to incorporate that. And to tell you the truth, Mayor, sometimes our clients are like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Others are like, oh, we have to do that. That's who we are here. And so I'm glad that you're considering that. I think it's important.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. So if we don't have any other questions from the commission, Nail, just thank you so much for your time and being here with us this evening, and for your presentation. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to our agenda discussion portion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Very nice to meet all of you. And if you have any other further questions, let us know. We look forward to the opportunity to work with you. We do recognize this is a great opportunity for someone. There's enough challenges there to keep someone busy. It's a great location. And, you know, I can tell from just my interaction with all of you tonight, you're a good group of folks to work with. And this is just something that would be, you know, candidates would be excited about it. We would not have any problem selling the position and marketing the position, but also I don't think we'd have any problem recruiting good candidates for you. So thank you so much for your time. It's very nice talking to you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's turn back to our agenda very quickly. That was our last presentation. So we're going to move into our discussion portion right now. And for anybody, for everyone that is still with us, thanks for staying with us. I just want to provide you kind of a quick disclaimer, so to speak, before we get into the discussion. For anyone that's not intimately familiar with the Florida Sunshine Laws, this is the first time that this group has been able to discuss the candidates, to discuss anything that you provided to us, discuss the questions. This is the first time. So if you're hearing something, you say, gee, well, they should have known that by now, or they should have already resolved that by now, or they should have made up their mind by now. Please understand this is the first time we've had the opportunity to talk. It's all got to be done in public. So I just want to let you all know that's where we're coming from. So we're kind of starting from scratch. So having said that, this is just a discussion format. So we've heard a lot, we've read a lot, we've consumed a lot. I think maybe outside of anyone having just a direct recommendation on someone we should go with, I thought maybe we should kind of, as a group, identify what we think our priorities are with respect to a firm that's going to be potentially helping us in this search. And maybe that'll kind of guide our discussion. But I guess first things first, if anyone is interested in making a proposal as to which group they want to go with, I would certainly be happy to open the floor.
May I jump in there, Jonathan, because
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I have just a couple of real quick things to say, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be the least engaged in this. So first of all, hi guys, nice to see you virtually tonight. FYI, Dan and I set a closing date on the house for next Thursday. So I will be tendering my resignation here effective one day next week. So this, unless you call an emergency meeting, this is the last time you're going to see my face on your screen. Okay, so real quickly, I'm on team. We don't need to hire a recruiting firm. So I'm with Linda and Art and probably lots of other people who are wondering why we're going to be spending a lot of money to do this. So I'll just put that out there. And I'm very certain you're going to move forward with the firm. So I'll make a couple of comments about that. First of all, the resident committees that we've done before, I'm always looking for ways to involve residents in things in the village. Whoops, I just lost my screen. There you are. So I would ask you to consider to do two things. One is to put together a vetting committee that would meet with these folks outside and make some, if not recommendations to you, share some thoughts with you. And I think a good group would be the board chairs or designees from each board. The manager works very closely with the board works very closely with the commission. And I think that relationship might be different in Biscayne Park than it is in some other cities because we lean on them so much. So I think the input of those people, many of whom have lots of good experience, would be very valuable to you. So that would be the first recommendation I would make, is to put that committee together and ask for their feedback. The other recommendation I would make is that when you bring people in for their in-person interviews, that you organize an event not unlike the one that I organized when Mayor Cava came to see us a few months ago, or was that last year? I can't even remember now. But there was an enormous turnout from the community, and I would think that you would get people to turn out to meet the candidates before the meeting. So I could see you duplicating, just use that as a template and have some music and hors d'oeuvres and wine and coffee out on the lawn outside the log cabin, let people mingle and meet and greet. Good opportunity for you to talk to people as well. And then a lot of those people will filter into the meeting where you interview these people. I think that's one of the things that makes us so special, is that not only are we willing to do those kind of those opportunities for residents to give us input, but that we can pull it off because we're so small and literally everybody can walk. The Cava event, most people walked over for that, and it was an enormous success, and people to this day still thank me for that. So those are the two things I would ask you to consider: is a chair, a board to give you some thoughts, if not outright recommendations, and also be very aggressive about a resident event. So I'm on team, don't need to do this, but given that I'm pretty certain that you're going to do this, knowing what I read from these organizations and listening to them tonight, I'll make two comments. One is, I don't think you can make a bad hire from the group. So there's no one here that I'd say run away from. And if I had to pick one myself tonight, I would go with Benzinger for a number of reasons that I won't go into.
So, all
And
right.
that's all I have to say.
So Mac,
Yeah.
thanks for, am I getting feedback? Oh, so Mac, thanks. I appreciate the input. And this actually, what you said, kind of predicted almost what I was going to recommend. And the reason, and this kind of is why I mentioned at the beginning of our discussion here that due to sunshine, this is the first time we've had the discussion, because to let everyone on the process, we got all these proposals, you know, and for the first time we were seeing the kind of the cost and what we were getting for it. And tonight is the first time we had the opportunity to talk about it. So if any of one of us made a decision before tonight that, you know, gee, we don't know that we want to go with any of these firms, we wouldn't have had an opportunity to talk
We
about
wouldn't
it
even
until
know
this
that.
evening.
That's
Right, exactly. So I before you know, and I don't want to co-opt any more time and get everybody else a chance, but I personally, after I've been through everything, I'm kind of leaning towards a little bit more what Mac is recommending, that that we kind of go through the process and establish a process on our own. Reason being, look, I think that what each of these groups has brought to us tonight, and my computer just restarted on me, what each of these groups have brought to us here tonight is really invaluable. And I think it would be incredibly helpful. I spoke with some of the referrals from Miami-Dade County, some that have worked with some of the groups, and heard nothing but good things. So kind of calling those references and talking with them. But just seeing how much we're going to spend, my one big question is always going to be, where's that money going to come from? And I personally can think of 3 to 4 candidates without needing to go to a recruiting group that are potentially likely interested and could do the job. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And that's one of the reasons I was asking a lot of the groups tonight, what if we don't go with one of your candidates? What if you don't bring someone that we want to hire? You know, what does that look like? And of course, the process is just going to keep going until they bring us someone that we want. And we may already have someone that we want in mind. I'm not saying that it's the interim. There are other people that I have in mind that I've spoken with when we were looking for an interim. So that's my thought, but certainly not foreclose the idea of going with the groups, one of the groups that recommended or presented tonight. So
Jonathan,
sorry.
if I could follow up to that, to one
Yeah.
thing you just said.
Sure.
And remember that one does not preclude the other, right? So we could start a process to find a candidate and let a certain amount of time go by. And if we realize we have not found someone and we don't feel like we're heading in the right direction, at that point, you can still hire the firm. It doesn't mean it's one or the other. It could be one, then the other, if you need it to be.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I certainly don't want to delay the process too long, but I also don't want to rush it because I want to make sure we get the right candidate. So with that, I certainly agree with you, but having said that, I want to give everybody else a chance to share their thoughts.
So I'm also hesitant on the money. I wasn't sure what we were going to be getting, but it seems there is this proportion about the 30% of the salary of the manager to take in consideration when it comes to fees, at least more or less around there. And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's a process we were hoping to understand, and we've had. The presentations went wonderful, so thank you very much. It really enlightened me of everything that you guys have access to when it comes to talent that we didn't last time around, and it didn't go well. I was really hoping to go for a firm because of that, because of the expertise, because of the contact base, and because of the references when it comes to the job versus the money. One of the conversations we've had over and over is, are we paying right? We know that the answer is no. And we really thought and discussed this very recently when we increased the manager's salary. But we're still at a challenge where we're far away from the average that a manager is getting in other municipalities. I would like to hear the experts come forward and say, well, this is actually what goes in consideration to that. And you know, we did our process ourselves, and it fell short. And I think I want to have the confidence that the next phase we do bring someone that tells us all the variables that need to be considered when we're thinking about the right money, the right candidate for it, and the right qualifications to consider. I'm hoping to review the job posting itself. Tell us what we're missing. You know, what's happening in the fact of the fact that we're not getting a lot of feedback from people specifically in Florida. This is something that we're missing in terms of putting out there with the correct wording and the right emphasis on the things that matter to us the most to attract the right person. Maybe we're not doing that search correctly. So I have a lot of question marks that I cannot answer, and that's why I continue to go into we need a firm to help us out. This is why we hire professionals the same way that we hire for every position being important. This is one of them. This is what they do. And I think that's the value they bring to the table, being able to come forward and ask these questions and get the answers and move forward once and for all. I think we got very lucky with Mario coming from one of those up and comers that we thought about. I believe Renee, you talked about a position, I think it was Dania Beach city manager was Ana Garcia. She worked here before, and I believe that was also her circumstances. So is this going to be within the current pools of city managers looking for a job? Yes, and also I am curious to see who else. So we don't have that database to go and explore farther and deeper into the current organizations and people their interest on this. Go to the recruiting firms for that. Especially because I know the process is a professional process put in place, and especially when people are considering moving. I mean, we just went through that. I want to have that sense of someone that comes forward, also knowing what they're getting into, and a professional guides us both parts, us as a commission and also the candidates. So I think the bottom line is I incline to have a firm that guide us through the process. And I do have, I would say, my top selection would go, is between Norlock and CBNA, I call it, the same one that Mac just referenced to. Those are my two top choices. And yeah, I go back into what that means for us as a budget. All presentations are wonderful, so thank you, but I think those two stand out the most for me.
Okay.
So yeah, echo what a lot of the commissioners said. The amount of money we're going to spend is substantial, but I see a lot of benefit from. First off, I want to say thank you, Brad and Pamela. You guys did an awesome job. There, like Max said, there's no bad hire here. I am a little inclined also to think now that seeing the scope of this, see that we could do this ourselves. But we've done it a lot in the past. And if we're going to forge forward with not doing a firm, I want to have some strong discussions of the requirements of the job posting to make sure we hammer down the right candidate we are going to get. I think we've learned a lot here of what it comes to if we decide not to go ahead with a firm. But I think we have a lot of discussions to make going forward if we decide not to go with a firm. For me, it would, if I had to pick one, I am inclined with also Colin or Mercer. Those are my two top picks. But right now I'm leaning towards no firm and hosting it ourselves.
I'm in favor of doing no firm, but I think that we haven't learned from the past. And I just think that tonight was fantastic. I didn't expect this group of people to come along with good recommendations, and they answered a lot of questions. I just think that if we're going to do it ourselves, then we really have to do a lot of, I agree with Commissioner, we need to have a lot of guidance, because I think that there could be personal reasons we hire a city manager presently. Could be personal reasons why we're going to hire the present city manager that's interim, and I have concerns about that. So an outside firm, I think, would be good. And I think I am concerned about the money. I wasn't on the commission when you guys, how much money you passed, so I don't know about that part. I'm concerned, but I think an outside firm can help a lot. And I think an outside firm can work with a committee that we can set up here. And I think it would work good. They have it for a year. If they don't give us, if we don't get any candidates from them, then they're going to stay on for the whole time. So, I mean, the money price is important, but I think that because we already have an intern manager right now, I have a major concern about having in-house done in-house. I think I really need to have an outside. He could be the best candidate if he comes out of it. I do have some concerns about it. And I think that we have a group of people here that we can pick from. Yes, $30,000, if I'm correct, that's the amount. I'm concerned about that. But I think we could get our money's worth. And I think that they would be willing to work with a group of people, residents that we set up. Like the committees we had in the past, that has worked, except for the last one. And the last one, I think Commissioner Kennedy, Vice Mayor Kennedy brought up, we didn't have the committee to do it. And look what that got us. You know, so because for the city manager, we already have an interim city manager, I would have my concerns. So I would really want that reason an outside firm. He might be the right candidate, but I would feel.
Can I ask a question? What about an in-between? I mean, what about getting help when it comes to put in a job description that kind of identifies everything we need and with the right salary, some sort of an assessment when it comes to that? I don't know that we might not, maybe we don't need absolutely all the services that are listed, but maybe there's something we can outsource to guide us through the process later on. I'm just concerned about arriving to the final budget. Within our budget, that's a concern, but also that it's fair to attract the people that we're looking for.
You're talking about the salary?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the salary, you know, it has to come from somewhere. And I think we already defined that this year it will be okay, but long term, do we have the right salary in place? And that's something that I don't think any of us can answer. And I would like to have some help, you know, in certain areas. So is there an opportunity to revise the proposal and not just go all in for $30,000 and sort of pick and choose? And I'm thinking out loud, I don't know if this is something that is doable, but I have some sort of a consulting when it comes to these are the key steps that you need to take. This is the research we've done, and compare your current position, your current status as, you know, a small village, your needs, your your CIP, sorry. So we have a lot of it in place already, and based on that this will be a fair number. So then it's legitimized in a way further than ourselves coming with a number. So maybe there is a space for an in-between, knowing that we all touch bases that we do need help here and there, but we all don't feel, none of us feel comfortable with the $30,000. Clearly, that's something we were not expecting. Could that be something to be considered?
Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone that's here with us. I think it's probably a separate proposal. That's like an hourly thing, maybe an hourly engagement. I don't even know. I think that, you know, if we were to ask for that, certainly again, not foreclose to that idea either. But if we were to ask for that, I think we would have to ask these groups to come back to us.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be decided tonight.
Yeah.
But I
so
think
it's just it stretches us out another month. You know.
Correct.
'Cause
Yes.
time is a factor, and well, again, like I mentioned, I certainly don't want us to rush it.
I agree.
I also don't want us to be hiring our, you know, our permanent manager, let's say like in August, like drop him right in the middle of a budget.
I think it would
Which
be
tough.
August, but I think to your point, it would stretch the process, which I'm more comfortable than just running with what we've got. My experience on the last search was tricky. We didn't get that much of, you know, we were at the end left with 2 candidates, and most of them were from out of the state. We talked about what we wanted. So I'm afraid of following into the same bucket, and then 3, 4, 5 months come in and we have 2 candidates because we're not paying fairly, because we're not being clear on what we want, because our benefits are now to the table, what people are expecting. And so the person that comes in can commit long term and thinks twice about making the move if we do find someone from out of state. So it can go either way. You know, it doesn't mean that because we're going to do it ourselves in 3 months, we'll have the right person. I'm hoping that that's the case either way. But I just want to have the right tools to do it right this time.
I kind of
Can I
foresee.
respond to that real quickly?
Yeah, of course.
One thing is, Vero, you have someone there running the village in a competent manner right now, and you're not leaning on other staff members. So we have that luxury that we did not have in previous
True.
searches. And And you may not have to wait 3 months to realize we need to go to Plan B. You might, between now and 3 months, get far enough along in the process to know this is not going well. Don't wait, if you don't have to, don't wait until the very end and go, we're down to 2 candidates and we don't want either of them.
Yeah.
When it feels like this isn't going well, bail and go back to Plan B.
Yeah, so I was.
I kind of feel like you have all the cards in your hand this time around. Now, things change. So.
Yeah, I certainly agree with the approach, and the way that I was kind of looking at it was like, can we kind of look at our options and kind of very specific paths. One, let's try and keep open or close the door right now to decide how we're going to go forward on whether we are deciding to retain one of these firms at the proposal that we've received. And the one question that I have with that path, I know there's, we're kind of, we're open to the idea, but we're not really sure we want to spend the money. The question that I would have then is the threshold question of where does that money come from? Go ahead.
Can address that.
Yeah.
To the extent, knowing that Mr. Childress was going to leave the meeting because of potential conflict.
Yes.
We had a
Perfect.
conversation earlier today in anticipation of discussions of how you were going to fund this project.
Perfect. Please.
So, Mr. Childress has indicated to me that the money is available. We didn't talk about specific sources.
I can't hear Brad.
Sorry. So let me start again.
There you go.
So in anticipation of this possibly coming up, Mr. Childress and I spoke earlier today, knowing that he was going to extricate himself from this proceeding. And he indicated to me that the money is available. I don't know the specific source of where it would come from, but he indicated that if this is the commission's desire to go this route, that there is funding available.
If that's the case, then I'd rather go with the outside firm.
Two things I wanted to add to just food for thought, the discussion. So one is that to Mac, to your point of having Albert and the current interim manager, it is true. So we have someone competent. I think we all feel comfortable with to manage the day-to-day. That could change very quickly also, as we know.
Yep.
And he could be on another city next week, not next week, 45 days, right? I think that's what we have in terms of notice. And I'm just saying out there, it could happen or it could not. And then will we be left with no manager, sort of the same process of starting then? So my other, and I have to bring it to the table because we discussed this also regarding the interim manager when we talked about salary, was that this is an opportunity to revise the salary, and the salary that we currently have is an all-income. It's all kind of taken, all the money that we have. It wasn't, the original salary was one with the benefits. Now we're passing through to the interim manager all the money that we have. Matches to that level, but I think there's going to be further negotiations to have considered with the interim manager if we want to go to hopefully retain him, if that's another thought. And again, I have to say it out loud because that's the only opportunity we have, right? So I am, although we can do that and maybe see it a plan B, it's all going to be time as well. And that's why for me, and I think I as I'm saying this, I tell this to myself, I feel more inclined to have a plan now and start in the clock now so we can move forward with the decision. And the decision might be that we have a better negotiation with the interim manager. It could be that along the way we have a wonderful candidate, but I want to have those options since now, rather than something comes along, we have no manager and we start then with the firm at the same level that we're in now. I also would like to see if the negotiation is an aspect to be considered with the firms that we heard about today, or is usually best practice, this is the proposition and that's it?
All I can say at this point is they're a vendor just like any other vendor.
Yeah.
So certainly from our perspective, when I say our, the village's perspective, if there's a desire of the commission to engage one or more of these firms and provide the services they've described, I can certainly go back to them and talk to them and and see if their proposals they can reduce their proposals to something that's acceptable to the village. I can't speak for them. I've never had that conversation with any of them.
Of course.
If that's your direction as a commission, then what I would ask you to do is give me at least a preference order
Yeah.
of the firms, and then I can have those discussions with them in the order in which you prefer. So whoever, I know you've indicated some names already.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we can't come to those agreements, I'll move on to the next, and hopefully at some point would have a proposal from one of them at a fee that would be acceptable to them and to the village.
So Brett, are you saying to go back and ask them to, after having listened to this conversation, ask them to re-bid for the current job? Or are you saying to do something like what Vero is suggesting and ask them for a price to write a job description, for example?
Well, I'm not necessarily asking them so these are professional services. So under your code, we do not need to seek bids or quotes. So the reason why I asked for proposals from them with quotes, so that you would have an idea of what the costs were.
Yeah.
And so we weren't going back and I wasn't going back to negotiate a price and then coming back to you again in the next meeting. And then you all telling me it's too much and then having to come back and go back and forth. And we'd be months trying to negotiate with a firm. So what I'm suggesting is if your desire, if your consensus at this point is to try to retain one of these firms, and you give me an order of preference of the firms, I will reach out to your first preference, speak with them. You give me some guidance as to what your lack of better terms, what you're willing to pay. And I will reach out to those firms, talk to them, and we'll have a discussion, a negotiation as to, and again, these negotiations are tough because you're going to tell me a number and I can't go there. If you say $20,000 and I go with whichever firm you direct me first and say, okay, we'll do it, we'll take 15,000, they're going to go away. I just heard the commissioner say 20. So we've had that issue when we were negotiating the manager's contract. So unfortunately, the way the structure is, I don't have the authority to decide on my own what the amount
Well,
is.
how about if you just simply ask each of them to submit their best and best
That
and
was my
last?
point. Yeah.
Yeah, best and last. Give us your best and last.
We can
And-
certainly do that. They can submit that. There's really no reason for us to re-interview them. You've talked to them all, and then I can just present those to you at a meeting, and you can all
Yeah.
make a decision. And I guess
was
the firms can decide individually whether or not they want to come up with a
Yeah.
different proposal as far as the price.
And they-
That was
and they
what
may
I was
say
gonna
no.
Suggest sorry, go ahead, Mac.
And I've just said, and they may step out of the bidding at that point, which is completely understandable. So yeah, I would just ask them, run down the list and find out who the top three groups are based on what we heard tonight. Go to them and say, give the commission your best and last price. And then at the February meeting, you guys have a conversation about it.
One of
If that's all your direction, I can certainly do that.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, one of my concerns that I have, if we do it just in-house as we were doing in the past, how we going to do the background check and the references? The references is the most important to me. I want to know how a person has done in his last job.
Well, I think that's a process that we can establish if we get to the point where we decide that one of these firms is not willing to help us, or we're not going to work with them. I know with managers past, we've had them submit references, or we can ask them to submit references, and then we can each individually speak with them. There's nothing that stops us from doing that. I agree with you.
No, I tried that and it didn't work.
Well,
Okay,
if
I
we
tried that,
decide
but
to
it
do-
didn't work.
well, if we decide to do the process on our own, that's the onus is on us. So that's the choice that we make. So, look, I have no problem, in all respect to these groups that have been here with us. I certainly don't want to be insulting to them, but I don't have a problem going back to them and saying, give us your best and final. For anyone that doesn't know as much about Biscayne Park, we are a 100% residential community. We don't have the incomes that a lot of groups do. So we're frugal. This is really important to us, and we guard our budget very fiercely. So I don't have a problem with that. We're only about 2 weeks away from our February meeting, so it's
Yeah,
3
exactly.
weeks, maybe three. We're not that far away.
So
Go ahead. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So if I may just make a suggestion.
Please.
At this point, instead of narrowing down any of the firms, I will, because you don't know, I don't know which ones are gonna back out.
Of course.
So if you're inclined to possibly still use a firm, and just so the record's clear, so the firms know, because I'm the one that reached out to them and spoke to them about what we were looking for. Based on the direction that you all gave me previously, I worked under the premise, and certainly you can change your minds, but I just want the firms to understand, I worked under the premise that you all were going to retain a firm for these services. So there was nothing behind the scenes from my perspective when I was engaging these firms.
And again,
As far
that's why we bring up the topic of sunshine, that
I understand.
we all agreed as a body that we wanted to explore hiring a firm to do this because we had some difficulties doing it without a professional firm in the past. So we put it out to bid and ask for people to look at it.
So what I would suggest is let me reach out to the firms.
Yeah,
Let me ask them for their best and final offer. We'll give them a deadline of, say, 5 days before the February hearing, so you
Okay.
have those, and Madam Clerk could get them onto the agenda, so they're attached to the agenda.
under just kind of maybe an item that says, discussion of
It
the
would
topic of village manager, because if we decide,
Actually, at this point, I probably would do it,
Good old business.
well, either that or we can do it it could be pulled off of consent. You could do it by resolution,
that's,
and then
well, by whatever mechanism,
I'll
wherever we
find a method
place
to
it.
get it onto the agenda, but you'll have that, and then you can make a decision in the February meeting,
And then a
what
decision,
path you want to take.
but broad enough to allow us to effectuate a discussion, say, if we get to that point, we say, okay, this isn't really what we were looking for. Now let's talk about what the process is going to be, either to look for hourly or for support in putting together and crafting the position, or if we're just going to do it as a collegial body and have, whether we decide to involve the resident groups,
Yes,
then
because
we'll do that.
even if today, if you would have said, I'm going with firm A, and we're going to accept their proposal,
Still have to,
I still had to come back
Sure.
with you because
Yeah.
they have a contract, we have to enter into a contract.
right,
I would still have to come back to you in February and say, okay, now here's a resolution to approve that contract.
mhm,
So what I would like to do is do it by virtue of resolution. You can pull it off consent for discussion.
okay,
And then if you vote, you can vote down the resolution. I'll leave the resolution blank as to the firm that you're going to retain.
okay,
But again, at that point, if you can vote it down and then choose to do this internally.
mhm.
If you choose a firm on that date, and then we can move forward. Otherwise, it's going to be another month's time before we come back to you.
Right, and we don't
Trying to
wanna do that.
expedite it as best.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because that timing is important, no matter what position we are currently in. Timing is
With
Can I
that
tag
timeline,
onto that
there's-
real quickly? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I would say with that timeline, there's no loss of time there where we would not be able
No.
to start with a
We would've done
retainer
it-
firm and start with a
correct.
firm. As long as, Brad, we could add something in there that if we choose to vote that down, that we can still put that a discussion on it to set the parameters of the search.
Right.
That
That's
meeting, so that
exactly
way
right.
we move forward with one or we move forward with the other.
You can always add that as a discussion
Walk it
item.
on.
And, well, we can add as a discussion item, and you can always withdraw it if it gets to
point.
the point. There's no reason to have the discussion if you decide to go with a firm.
The February
Yeah,
meeting,
that's
one
what I
way or
was-
the other, we're moving forward.
That's what I was just going to say, is put that on I would also have that on the agenda, as Ryan just said, so everyone's ready to go. Now, I'm just going to say that, look, if they come back with their best and final, and it's 20,000 instead of 30,000, I still think it's too much money for the village to spend to do this. And I would personally still vote for, move forward on our own and see where we get, and always, we can come back and do this as a plan B. I'm confident that you guys can do it, and you can do it better than we did it before, because now you have people there who have had experience doing it a couple of times. So I think you can do it, and that's $20,000 you don't need to spend. So best and final sounds great, but no one's going to come back and say $10,000. So, I still think if I were there, I'd still be saying, we don't need to spend this money. Let's just move forward. So, but I agree with Ryan, get it on the agenda so you can have that discussion.
Yeah, so it's all there, and it's ready for us to go. If we
Yep.
select a firm at that time, the resolution will pass.
Yep.
And if we don't, the discussion item is there, and we can set the parameters by which we will select going forward, either be it by us or
Yeah.
by any other means.
Jonathan, might you want to also do this when Brad talks to them and says, give us your best and final, say also give us an a la carte price to meet with the commission virtually and rewrite the job description and the job post. To Vero's point about we need help with some key aspects of it, ask them for it. And some of them may say, we don't do a la carte work like that. And some of them might say, hey, we'll charge you a couple $1,000 and you'll get the best ad you ever saw, the best job description. So if that would help you, why not use someone to provide that at least? So you might want to just ask them for a price on that.
Yeah, I think that's prudent, if the rest of the commission is interested in having those options presented to us.
Doesn't hurt to ask to see if the consensus.
Doesn't hurt to
is for
ask,
that.
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not only the job description, but also the analysis on the proper salary. It's part of the job description, but that would be sort of part of the search they need to do.
And the reimbursement or the compensation package.
Is that a consensus? So what I have is I'm going to reach back out, all 5 firms.
I can't hear Brad.
Sorry, Vice
And
Mayor.
it's the last time I'm going to hear you, Brad. I want to hear every word. I'm hanging on every word.
I'm going to be calling you just to bother you. Are you kidding me? So if I understand the direction correctly, I'm going to reach out, and I will do this tomorrow or Friday, but reach out to the 5 firms, ask them for their best and final price with regards to doing the recruiting services that they've provided, and ask them also to give a quote for creating a job description and providing a salary analysis for the village to help determine what the salary and benefits should be.
I'd say compensation is the word I would use.
Compensation package.
Because that includes salary, benefits,
Compensation package, all right.
I think that
And
sounds,
what I'm going to do is, as well, I'm going to ask them to provide an agreement so that it can be reviewed and it can be attached to the agenda as well.
perfect.
So when you choose, if you choose, you have everything. We don't have to come back.
Okay,
All right.
that sounds
And I
good.
dare say that if there are people who aren't interested in moving forward, you might be getting an email from them tomorrow morning, Brad, saying we listened and we're not interested. Thanks. It'll
That
save
might
you
be
some
so.
time. That might be
It'll
so.
It'll save me an email. And
Exactly.
some groveling.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think we have a consensus and direction to go forward, Brad. I don't think that if there's nothing else to discuss, I'd just like to say one more time, thank you to everyone that was here with us this evening. We're looking forward to continuing the conversation and in a short 2 to 3 weeks, making a decision on which direction that we will take. So thanks everyone again, and I think that brings us to the end of the discussion item, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I got to say goodbye again. No,
Oh,
don't
geez, Meg,
adjourn.
again.
Don't do that.
It was better when you were here in person.
It was more blubbery in person.
Well, that's why it's more fun.
Thank you, Pamela. Thanks, Brad. Vero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan, it was awesome. Dan, thank you and good luck. Ryan, thanks for stepping in and good luck with everything, guys.
Good luck with the house, everything with the house and the closing and everything, Mac.
I'm going back in to get to work right now.
Best of
See ya.
luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.